Dystopia warning, obviously. So has it happened to you yet? Have the Flagshaggers infiltrated your town? Have you been besieged by badly scrawled St George's crosses? Just daubed on zebra crossings? Or have you had, exceedingly poor erections hung off your local lamppost by men who look like they're incapable of getting a semi at best, which is just as well, considering the stats. The stats being that loads of them like to commit domestic violence and touch children. Nothing says pride in your country like vandalising your hometown. It makes me laugh that a group of men who wouldn't last a day in a painting and decorating job if it meant feeding their children will immediately, as soon as it's a way to signify their racism, get down to B&Q like a f***ing whippet. Out they go at night, don't they, with their little rollers, making their hometown look like it's been infiltrated by a shit, blind, far-right Banksy. Yeah. More like Wanksy. I'll get loads of people now going, oh, you're laying into the working class. Bold of you to assume that any of them work. Do you know how I know that this has nothing to do with signifying pride in Britain? I know because there's nothing to be proud about at the moment when it comes to being British, especially not because of those feckless, short, ugly pork dads bringing national shame once again. This is about the feckless trying to assert themselves and trying to intimidate people because they believe that they're going to be replaced. I wish! I would love for them to be replaced. So why does the St George's Cross or the Union flag intimidate people? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because for the last couple of decades, those very same types of people have been going into European countries for the championships and committing acts of ultra-violence. The very same groups of football fans that are often used in recruitment drives by far-right pedos like the EDL or Britain First, etc. It's easy because those people have no semblance of identity or personality of their own. Therefore, they fall back on the lottery of the place that they happen to have been born. Though we'd all be better off had they not been born and had their mum that night chosen to instead have a wank. So people associate that flag with the average Stella swigging wife beater. The type that causes the need for domestic violence charities to put out more ads during major tournaments. They're the worst of us. They're a symbol of shame, and they're also proof that the multi-million-pound radicalisation process that's been put into place by the people that are fueling the division and hate in this country is working. What they don't understand is that manufactured outrage is a business model. And we have a bunch of grifting chancellors in Parliament now, and our outdated, archaic parliamentary rules aren't built to withstand them. People like Tice, Farage, Lowe, etc. have the bank to pump into year-round party political broadcasts, except the party political broadcasts that they're putting out aren't based on policy, it's based on hatred and fear and division. And without fear, they would have no place in Parliament. They would not have got anywhere. What they need to do is make people nice and scared, make them hate a certain scapegoat, and then they can cash in, literally. And then you've got the broadcast media, what is referred to nowadays disturbingly as legacy media, which is what should be conventional journalism. But guess what? That's all owned by billionaires too. Just three companies, DMG Media, News UK and Reach, control 90% of UK national newspaper circulation, a 20% increase in market concentration since 2014. 7 of the top 15 online platforms used to access news in the UK are controlled by Meta, Google and X. That's alright though. It's not as if Elon Musk, the owner of X, was literally inside government when he was doing his Sig Heils. Probably best we don't talk about Zuckerberg, who was more than happy to lap at the balls of taco tits. So credibility and truth is scuppered at every single hurdle. The news constantly covers Farage's press conferences when he's got a tiny handful of MPs. Far-right talking points uncritically parroted on BBC primetime programmes. That's why you're seeing an uptick in this. This is why people that you wouldn't normally expect to are coming out all far right. Because you'd think that social media would be a free-for-all, but no, they're diminishing the views of anyone that speaks out against it. And what about GB News? Well, that's just a billionaire plaything owned by hedge funder Paul Marshall and the Legatum Group. They've kept it alive despite 170 million in losses in 2021. Probably can't help that they're paying that toad-face £97,900 a month for broadcasting and consultancy. Farage, Tice, Rupert Lowe, they're making extraordinary bank out of this. While the people that they radicalise are terrifying vulnerable people outside their temporary homes. They're holidaying in the south of France or spending most of the year living in Dubai instead of their constituencies. Whilst taking huge sums from millionaires and billionaires who only want them in power so they can see a return on their investment via corporation tax, policy influence. But what the people voting for these clowns need to realise is that not only does wealth not trickle down, neither does power. I mean, the amounts that he's raking it in are eye-watering. 4 hours work, a £91,000 payoff as a brand ambassador for a bullion firm. £189,000 in a year. And that's before you get onto his weird speaking circuit in America. His register of interests is wild. 25 grand for 19 hours of work, whereas most of us would earn about 200 quid for that. And then you get them calling it the politics of envy. Oh, if you're that bothered, why don't you go out and earn that much money? Didn't go to the same school as him. There is no such thing as a meritocracy. He's evidence of it. So why do people make excuses for billionaires and millionaires in this country when they have not got a pot to piss in? The royal family has a big part in this. We are literally ruled over by a royal family who thinks they have a superior bloodline, who refuse to employ black people and think they are chosen by God. So we have a monarchy that believes in divine right, we have a parliament that thinks that people will still play by the rules, and that's how you end up with a hierarchy that is not questioned. When your system tells you that some people were born superior, it isn't hard for people to accept propaganda that tell them that other people are inferior. And then you've got Rupert Lowe, who was the heir to a number of family businesses, claiming that it's all about, natural conditions, grassroots activism, people just finally having enough. Yeah, okay, except that's absolute bullshit. Bot farms and troll farms are supercharging GB News' output, and they all support Farage and they all support reform. A Global Witness study that found that nearly 2/3 of suspicious bot-like accounts were pushing reform content, more than double aimed at the Tories or Labour. Even Rishi Sunak, who was like a limp dick at a gangbang, acknowledged that there was coordinated foreign interference going on, including malicious actors behind Kremlin-style troll pages, which were amplifying reform messaging across Facebook and TikTok comment farms. It's the illusion of mass consensus. And the people who believe the shit that he puts out will sit there and they'll go, that's just legacy media. It's not real. Don't go around believing those facts. If it's not on a Facebook meme, it can't be true. Whereas Muslims trying to ban Christmas, clever fuckers. Now I could go on about Richard Tice pumping, huge amounts of his own money into reform. His huge amount of inherited family wealth, the extraordinary profits that they're making. Him going on the anti-abortion circuit. Could talk about the fact that these will strip away all your basic rights and protections. Most of the things that you enjoy and take for granted were actually hard fought for by lefty unions or brought in by a Labour government like the NHS. But radicalised people don't listen, and they know that. That's why they base everything on fear and conspiracy. They won't build you houses, they won't increase your wages, they won't stop 0-hour contracts or stop food banks. They will hand tax cuts to billionaires though, because at that point you'll still think it's the Somali family down the street that are causing you the problems. But by the time that twat is ensconced in number 10, it'll be too late. You'll have 5 years of fucking misery because they're not new, they're not a protest, they're the Tories with added racism. In fact, most of their donors are former Tory donors. They pose as defenders of the working class, but they've got no intention of helping you rise up out of that. They want you distracted and poor and scared so they can continue to control you, because that is how it works.